Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She is the author of the book Mindfulness for Teens, no other than Miss Jennie Marie Battistin.
Thank you, Daniel. So great to be here with you.
Welcome to Book 101, Miss Jenny. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
I'm a marriage family therapist in the greater Los Angeles area of California. I am the practice owner of Hope Therapy Center. We have 7 locations throughout California, and we specialize in ages 2 to 99, helping individuals have great mental health and just understand how they can connect more with their families, their partners, their children, and just build a strong community and step into more authentically how they want to show up in the world.
Authentically, people. And Miss Jenny, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, especially mindfulness for teens. Can you tell us about this book of yours?
Yeah, so when I first started off in my career, I was working on the high school campuses, and I would just hear over and over so many of my teens were stressed out, overwhelmed. They were not getting their homework done. Their parents are frustrated with them. They felt like they couldn't concentrate. They're overwhelmed by just the anxieties of being a teenager in today's modern world. And so I really began to kind of start to teach them about some mindfulness practices. And there's just so many wonderful things about mindfulness. You know, a lot of research has come out that if we can just do just even a 3 to 5 minute practice of mindfully being present with ourselves, that within 30 days, we can have improved concentration. And so with my teens, I said, you know, if we can teach you how to be a little bit more mindful, you'll probably get your homework done faster. You'll score better on your tests. And guess what? Your parents and your teachers will kind of be off your back. So they're like, all right, let's do it. So yeah.
Let's do it for sure. So, Miss Jenny, what are your struggles in writing mindfulness for teens?
Well, so I got a call from a publisher one day and they said, hey, we heard about you through another doctor and we'd love to have you write a book for teenagers. Do you have an idea? I never thought of writing a book, but I happened to be just writing down some exercises earlier that day to give to some of my teenagers that I was going to see later in the day. And I was like, I literally in a 15-minute off the top of my head pitched an idea of mindfulness in 10 minutes a day. The book publisher's like, this sounds great. Can you write it in 6 weeks? We want to get a book out in time for back to school. And I was like, 6 weeks? I've never thought of writing a book. I just totally in 15 minutes, like tried to tell you an idea. All right, let's do it. So I basically sat down and I said, okay, in 6 weeks, if I need to write 60 exercises, that means 10 exercises a week. So I just figured out a pathway to write it and at the same time working with my clients. What do you think about this exercise? And so a lot of my teenagers were giving me feedback of like, I like that one. I don't like that one. That one's great. That one sucks. And that really kind of helped me come together with the exercises to put into the book.
Miss Jenny, what was the primarily catalyst or personal experience that motivated you to write mindfulness books, specifically targeted at teenagers?
I think because so often teenagers are misunderstood and they're really kind of overlooked and seen as being lazy or not wanting to apply themselves in schools. And a lot of times that's not the case. They're just really feeling overwhelmed. Their anxiety is getting the best of them. They're struggling with the dynamics of social pressures. And so in working with teenagers, I just found like tremendous turnaround and just teaching them just simple little exercises to help them stay a little bit more calm, to really lean into who am I developing into as I'm emerging into adulthood here in the next few years? What are the things that really ring true to me? And so I think from that was really the catalyst to see that they are capable to encompass something that can help them be more focused, to be more attuned to who they are individually. And so I think that was really the fuel to help me write this book.
Very well said, Miss Jenny. Very well said. Beautifully articulated. Why did you settle on 10 minutes a day as the core framework?
So I found that most of my students that had really pretty significant anxiety or depression factors, that 10 minutes seemed to be a sweet spot for them to really practice some of these exercises and really kind of infuse that into the way that they're looking at how they were showing up in their life. 10 minutes was really powerful to helping reduce anxiety as well as really improving their concentration so that they could actually stay focused while they're taking their longer exams at school. So, I played around with a few different exercise times, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and found that 10 minutes was something that was practical. And usually I could get a teen on board that, hey, we all have at least 10 minutes in our day that we could do a practice here. I'm not telling you for 2 hours, go out and do this. So it was accessible.
The subtitle highlights feel calm, stay focused, and be your best. Beyond this, what one or two other significant benefits you hope teens consistently gain from practicing these exercises?
Yeah, I think as they are able to tune in to their inner world and they are starting to experience a sense of calmness, they'll actually show up and be more confident in their life because they actually are connecting to what do I need? How am I understanding my world? And how can I share that not only with myself in a more profound way, but others in my world and actually speak up for myself? So confidence is probably one of the biggest things that I see start to grow out of this mindfulness practice, that they actually feel like they can tackle the bigger things in life, as well as I see their organization start to improve. They're able to see the bigger picture of what their day looks like at school, after school, managing all the activities and the competing aspects of, oh, I want to play games and I want to hang out with my friends and I got homework to do. So they're actually organizing their day a lot better.
Miss Jenny, how do these exercises in your book fundamentally differ from mindfulness practices designed for adults, considering the unique developmental stages and challenges of adolescence?
Yeah, so they all have very cute names. Sometimes my teenagers will laugh a little bit. Like one of the exercises is the superhero stance, with the rise in superhero movies. I thought, oh, let's call it the superhero stance. And so they're a little bit engaging, the titles. I've got titles like Eat the Frog, which I love. I love Eat the Frog, which really comes from Mark Twain's saying that if it's your job to eat the frog, do it first thing in the morning. So I teach my teens that aspect of whatever you feel like you're dreading to get done. If you get it done first, then you can move on into your rest of your day. So the titles are engaging, they're fun. That makes it a little bit more accessible and practical.
Can you describe the typical structure of an exercise in the book? How do you balance variety to maintain engagement with the need for simplicity and consistency?
Yeah, so I've structured the book in 3 different time frames. So we've got morning exercise, we have midday exercises, we have evening exercises. So really it gives them the flexibility of finding something that works for them. Now, certainly the exercises could be interchanged. And while maybe the superhero stance is geared towards, hey, first thing in the morning, do your superhero stance, you can certainly do it in the evening as well. So it has some flexibility, but it's nice because they're like bite-sized exercises that I can, oh, this afternoon I have a little bit of time and I really need to feel calm. So I'm going to thumb through the afternoon exercises and find one of the calm exercises that feels like it resonates with me.
Which specific common stressor for today's teens, like academic pressure, social media anxiety, identity exploration, or family dynamics, do your exercises most directly address, and how?
Yeah. So again, with the mindfulness aspect, we're learning to accept the present moment without judgment, which I think is really important to help us be more confident, less judgmental about ourselves. And so often we see so much from the media and social media, especially of like, this is what life should look like. And if my life doesn't look like that, I tend to fall into anxiety or depression. But if I can actually be present in this moment without judgment, maybe I'm not going to internalize and judge how my life compares to others. I'm accepting where I am in this space and I'm finding ways to appreciate where I'm at. So it really helps to reduce that tendency to judge oneself compared to what we see in social media or what our peers are doing.
Does the book guide teens through a progression of skills, or are the exercises designed to be used modularly?
So there is a progression as they work through some of the exercises. They're going to move on to more advanced mindfulness practices. They all have breathing usually attached to it or some form of a grounding exercise. And so there's a couple different skills that they're learning in that process and a few different types of breath works that can activate different parts of the polyvagal system, which can help calm down the nervous system. So something like a faster breath work might help reduce anxiety and tension a little bit more. Something that's a little bit slower brain breath work might help them just feel a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more calm.
Miss Jenny, what's your advice for a teen or a parent or educator who encounters skepticism or resistance when starting mindfulness practice?
Yeah, so I always talk to my teens about kind of, for a while there on social media, we saw a lot of these challenges like the water bucket challenge or whatnot. And so I usually will challenge them. Maybe you could see this book as your 10-day challenge. Give it a try for 10 days. See what happens. You know, maybe you prove me wrong. Maybe it doesn't add anything, but maybe you actually find that engaging with the exercises, maybe you do feel within 10 days a little calmer, a little bit more at peace, a little bit more focused, and that your homework's getting done a little quicker, and maybe you're scoring a little bit better. And with that proof, in a sense, in 10 days of like seeing the benefits, I think most of my teens really buy into it and go like, oh, this actually is so helpful. And a lot of times they get through the exercises and want to know, what else can I do? And so this is where my secondary book came in, the Mindfulness Journal for Teens. And so this is a practice to really explore more about my beliefs, how I view the world, and just maybe journal about how I want to show up in the world a little bit differently.
So, Miss Jenny, this will be the follow up for mindfulness for teens.
This just takes them a little bit deeper, a little bit more in self exploration of how they're actually looking at their world and responding to the world, because there's prompts there for them to journal about that really causes some reflection and deeper exploration of their internal values, beliefs, and maybe how they see the world versus their own individual self and, just what they're seeing growing up in their household.
Miss Jenny, as an author, what are your short term and long term goals?
Yeah, my short term goals is to make something practical, accessible, and a little bit fun. My long-term goals is to help improve mental health.
Yes, indeed. And you are a psychotherapist too, right?
Yes.
So, what are your short term and long term goals as psychotherapist?
Again, really in the first part is really just to help someone to kind of like reduce whatever their symptoms that maybe they're experiencing. And then in the long term would be for full mental health recovery. We really work at Hope Therapy Center, believing that there is hope, there is healing, that you can recover, that a diagnosis of anxiety and depression isn't a label that you need to carry for the rest of your life. That through various methods, whether it's eating a whole food diet, adding supplements, um, and maybe short term medication, that we can find a way to recover our mental wellness.
Yes. And good luck to your goals, Miss Jenny. Looking forward for more success and more empowering books to come. And what would be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be an author as well as a
Yeah,
psychotherapist?
I think the advice comes from my mom. As a small kid, she used to say to me, Jenny, shoot for the stars and at least you'll hit the moon. And so I think anyone can shoot for the stars of writing a book and you'll hit the moon, you'll write something, and try not to be critical, try not to be judgmental. Just give it a try and see what resonates, and feel free to go back and modify and edit and get feedback and be inspired by those around you. Read good books to help bring inspiration, and just be present with yourself for a moment. I think all of us has an idea in there that could be the next bestseller.
Yes, and stop procrastinating, people. If you have the passion to write, write, and share to the world, just like Miss Jenny. What is specific or what is a scientific research or evidence based most strongly supports the effectiveness of a specific mindfulness techniques you you teach for the adolescent's brain and well-being?
Yeah, so we can see on functional MRI scans within 30 days, we actually see more brain activity and almost like a neurogenesis that occurs. So we actually believe mindfulness is helping us work for our full capacity of what our brain's potential is. And we can see that on a functional MRI scan. And results from testing will show us in 30 days, individuals' memory seems to improve, and even, just their awareness of understanding vocabulary and comprehension starts to increase after 30 days of a mindfulness practice.
And Miss Jenny, what do you perceive as the single biggest obstacles teens face when trying to establish consistent mindfulness practice?
I think there's a little bit of procrastination, a little bit of self-doubt, a little bit of like I'm being pulled into social media or video games. And so they do have to combat a little bit with that. So again, I try to just encourage them, start with small bites. If you can just do a minute of a practice and slowly build it up from there. If we can get up to 10 minutes, that would be wonderful. But if 1 minute or 2 minutes of mindfulness is all you can do, we can all put our phones down and stop scrolling on social media, or we can put the game controller down for at least a couple minutes. And again, the proof is in if you feel more relaxed, less anxious. I think they have the benefit and they're like, okay, I'm going to continue on with this and do a little bit more.
Baby steps, people, baby steps. And Miss Jenny, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and food 101 in fifth season as well. Comedy or Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love Letters in third season, and Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. Miss Jenny, what's your greatest hope for the impact this book will have on individual teens and how society views supporting adolescents' mental well-being?
My biggest hope is that we see a decrease in suicide ideation and suicide rates within teens. It's been exploding in recent years. And if we can teach teens mindfulness and less judgment, we should see a reduction in suicide rates and suicide ideation.
Miss Jennie Marie Battistin, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy as well as your books itself?
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Daniel. This has been a great conversation.
Yes, where do people buy your book now, Miss Jenny?
So you can find me on Amazon, wherever you buy your books. I'm in all the major book resellers, Target, Barnes & Noble, Goodreads, has connections, thrift books, but Amazon is the go-to place where most people find it easily. Just put that in your cart. It'll be right to you in a day or two.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Jennie Marie Battistin because if you support her, more and more and more empowering books to come, more and more and more advocacy to come. So, Miss Jennie, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel.
More to come, people. See you soon.